to the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavali. So today's free weekly shows are a little bit later this week as we were waiting for all the Serie A games to finish, with Juventus playing on Tuesday evening, completing the programme. So we're going to react to all the matches from the last match day, including Juventus, who won 3-0 against Sassuolo on Tuesday. Two great goals from Dusan Vlahovic, which means that the gap at the top of the table is back to 2 points. Inter thrashing Monza 5-1. So we'll be reviewing both of the two Scudetto contenders. Also Milan, who continue their renewed form, winning 3-1 against Roma. But the biggest talking point of the week coming from that game is, of course, José Mourinho, who has now been sacked by Roma. So we're going to look at Mourinho and look at his time at Roma. What went wrong? Was it a success? What next for Mourinho? And what next for Roma? Because Daniele De Rossi has been appointed as the manager of Roma until the end of the season. Elsewhere, Napoli get back into the top four race as they scored deep into injury time to break Salernitana's hearts. They're also quite active on the transfer market as well. Lazio make it 5 wins in a row. Bologna's fairy tale is starting to turn a bit sour as they lose again to Cagliari. Fiorentina slip up as well. So the top four race is really, really crazy. And we're also going to profile Juventus wonder kid Kenan Yildiz, who is really exploded in the last month or so. Also, we're going to talk about, give our well wishes to Sven-Göran Eriksson, and one of the most beautiful videos I have ever seen from Lazio's his Lazio squad, Scudetto winning squad, absolutely beautiful. And of course, we'll have Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week and all the latest transfer updates. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, usually Wednesday this week, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus a weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP, become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. And you can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify, which will provide the link in the description. It's the same price and the same terms. And for all of you that listen on Spotify or on Apple and on iTunes podcast, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like, and also do the same on YouTube. It really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys. So let's get into today's show. Okay, so only one place to start, and that is, of course, the news from Roma, with José Mourinho being sacked on Tuesday. Kind of a little bit expected. There were murmurings coming out. He has been under pressure because Roma have been in very, very bad form recently. And of course, the last week has been very, very bad for the team and the players and the fans, losing to Lazio in the Coppa Italia, their rivals, their city rivals, and then being beaten 3-1 in the latest limp performance by Milan at the weekend. So first of all, Nima, what's your reaction to this sacking of Mourinho in the way that it's been dealt with by Roma?
Well, my reaction to this is that the Friedkins have, from a strategic point of view, from their perspective, they've handled this brilliantly, because Mourinho's contract expires at the end of June this season. They're not going to extend that. That was obvious, evident already last summer. It was evident that they weren't going to do that. There's always going to be, and sacking him was going to be very, very unpopular. So naturally, they replace him with a Roma god, the second biggest god in the Roma Empire, and that is Daniele De Rossi. Daniele De Rossi, who has had an awful career as a coach at Spal.
Daniel De Rossi, no?
Daniel, to wait with the Daniel part, yeah. Daniel De Rossi. He's had an awful start to his coaching career. And so that will soften the blowback, because no one is going to criticize Daniele De Rossi if you're a Romanista, even though you love José Mourinho. And more importantly, the Friedkins know that they only need him until the end of the season. In the off chance that he succeeds, in the very off chance that he succeeds, and what do I mean by succeeds? He gets Roma to the Champions League, he wins them the Europa League, something like that. Then they will then have to cross that bridge when they get to it and keep him. But all likelihood points to the fact that he will fail miserably. The season's a write-off. And given the fact that Thiago Pinto has also left, or will leave early February, then they can restart this entire project in the summer from scratch. And then they also will not have to deal with the calls to have Daniele De Rossi back at Roma. So from a strategic point of view, the Friedkins have played a blinder here. They've played.
Yeah, I saw some criticism from Fabio Capello. Really strong criticism against not so much the Friedkins, but more American owners as a whole. And I kind of see, I agree with him, his broader point, but I disagree with him, as you just explained there, about how they've dealt with Mourinho, because I can't blame them, really, for sacking Mourinho, because, I mean, this brings us on to has Mourinho been a success at Roma? But you can't blame the Friedkins, because he hasn't, certainly when it comes to domestically, in terms of Serie A, I would say he's underachieved with Roma. Now, I'm not expecting Roma to be a title challenger, or to challenge to win the Scudetto, or even to challenge for the top 2 or top 3. But I am expecting them to challenge for top 4. And if Mourinho is supposedly this elite manager on the salary that he's on, one of the best coaches in the world, then you expect a top coach to get more out of their team and not get less out of their team. And I believe there's no doubt about it in Serie A. That is what's happened. He's got 2 sixth-place finishers in a row. That's definitely underachieving in Serie A. And this season, they're 9th in Serie A. They've got the 3rd highest wage bill in Serie A. Now, okay, some of that has been badly spent, and that's not necessarily down to Mourinho. That also predates Mourinho. And they've also been obviously hamstrung in the market by this FFP that seems to have been going on for decades with Roma, with loan players and all this. But if you look at the players that he's got at his disposal, especially in attack, Lukaku, Dybala, Pellegrini, and then Tammy Abraham as well last season, and then Spinazzola when he's had injury problems. But, there is a lot of quality, certainly in attack. I mean, Roma boast goals and attacking quality on a par with almost anyone in Serie A.
That from that aspect, I agree 100%. I think Mourinho has failed in the league from that aspect, because in the sense that from two aspects. The first aspect is when you have Dybala, when you have Lukaku, Osmun, Pellegrini, Belotti, and you can't literally barely create in the final third. That has to, after 2.5 years, be on the manager. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And then, of course, secondly, being that they look at Napoli, they look at Juve, they look at all these other qualitatively, they look at all these other squads, and Lazio last season, and they're like, well, they have overachieved, especially, if you look at Napoli and how much they spent. You look at Milan when they won the Scudetto, how much they spent. They look at Lazio last season finishing second and how much they spent. And they're going, well, you failed. There's no doubt about that, given how much
the first summer, just on that point, the first summer, they spent a hell of a lot of money in Mourinho's first summer. Then, of course, they had to rein it in last summer, the second summer that he was there. And then, of course, again, this summer. But they spent a lot of money and okay, that's not all on Mourinho, but...
No, but it's got to do with the fact that you have to be able to create more in the final third, and Mourinho's not been able to do that. He really hasn't at Roma. I think overall, his tenure at Roma will be remembered as he'll be remembered as a hero, because he won them their first European trophy, even though it was a minor Euro. People say it's the third most important trophy. It doesn't matter. They won it. He brought them to the final of the Europa League, which they lost on penalties. very unlucky.
And they deserve to win that game.
And they deserve to win that game, although they did lose. And I don't think blaming Anthony Taylor is helpful. I mean, that's just what Mourinho does, and that's his thing. But he did, if you look at overall on that, and you compare that to Roma's history, that is actually a success.
Yeah, and if you ask any Roma fan, they love him. They worship him.
Of course they do.
The fans in Rome worship him. I mean, we were just saying on this pod last week that when he got sent off in that game a couple of weeks ago, have you ever seen the crowd cheer and applaud him and give him a standing ovation to being sent off in a game that they lose? They lose or they draw that game? I can't remember.
Yeah, because he played that politically really well, and he understood the atmosphere, and he understood the
love he's got. Like when he was leaving the ground yesterday, and they were all going. No,
there's no doubt that he was. There's no doubt that he understands. I mean, this is the kind of club he should.
And he filled out the stadium as well. I mean, that wasn't all him. That wasn't all him. That was also some changes they made in terms of getting the stadium full. But
the Roma,
he created a community again. He created.
That's what I was going to say.
Brotherhood.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And this is because Roma, Inter, these are the Porto, these are the kinds of clubs that he should be at. Meaning, when he's at Real Madrid, when he's at Manchester United, who are establishment clubs.
More corporate clubs.
They're football aristocracy. No, not corporate. They're football aristocracy. He is not that guy. He doesn't walk, he's the guy who walks into the underdog and at the underdog club and builds an underdog mentality and then proceeds from there on. And that's his biggest strength. And I think at Roma, that's so true. And that's what he was able to do. He started playing youngsters, Romanisti, and he himself was, speaking about like why he's playing so many young Roma youth team players, because, if they weren't on the pitch, they'd be standing in the Curva Sud. And he understood the importance there, and he respected that, and he managed to criticize so many players publicly, and they didn't stab him in the back, but instead they turned up for him. I mean, that's something that he's always, in the past few years, he struggled with. But at Roma, that wasn't the problem. The problem was that it looked so bad on the pitch in the final third, despite boasting attacking talent. That great attacking talent, if we're perfectly honest. And I think that's what ultimately cost him. But I think his tenure overall at Roma will be remembered fondly by Roma fans. And I think that's how he'll go down as. But
I think it does this spell. Talking about it from Mourinho's point of view, this spell just confirms everything that I predicted. I think we predicted when he took over, but everything that I've been saying since, and I've said it so many times since he was sacked by Chelsea in his second spell back in the 2015-16 season. I think it was December 2015. So we're talking about just over 8 years ago now. It's a long time ago. And I said back then that he was outdated and he needed to change his style and reinvent himself tactically and stylistically. And that's over 8 years ago. And I said, if he doesn't do that, he won't succeed at the very highest level. And then and everything that he's done since has confirmed that. But this spell at Roma has confirmed that. He's been great for Roma in that he's won them European titles, but we're talking at a certain level. We're talking at a minor European trophy. We're talking about the Conference League and then doing well in the Europa League. We're not talking at the top level. We're not talking about the Champions League. We're not talking about succeeding or challenging even in Serie A, 2 sixth place finishes and a 9th place. This season, Roma have only beaten one top 10 Serie A side this season. And this is Mourinho's level now, that he can't go higher than this level. And even at this level, he's not even able to raise the level of a team of Roma's level anymore. So this is where Mourinho has been for the last, 8 years. This is the level he's been.
I think he has changed. I think it's unfair to say it's been a monolith for the last 8 years. I think he has changed at Roma, and I think he has adapted. But the problem is that I don't think that the magic is there anymore. He's not, I think he's always going to be a tactically.
But he's not adapted in a way that's brought him success at the level that he was before. He hasn't.
Well, of course not. No, because football has changed, and playing that style of football, you have to update and keep with the times. regardless of how much money you spend on the transfer window, you have to update your ideas. And Mourinho struggled to do that, and he has updated. The problem is that this version of the updated Mourinho, I don't think is good enough to be at the top elite clubs in Europe to win Champions Leagues or compete for Champions Leagues. That's just how it is. But I think that he will now go into management. Go into national team management.
Well, that's the question now. Where does Mourinho go from here? I mean, there's been strong links to Newcastle. Eddie Howe's under a lot of pressure there, and Brazil national team, very strong links to the Brazil national team because Carlo Ancelotti. The Brazil Football Federation is even worse than the Italian Football Federation. The way that they run things over there is a complete shambles. They've been without an international manager since the World Cup, and they've been waiting for Ancelotti, and now Ancelotti has basically said no to them.
He's extended with Real Madrid.
So Brazil are there holding their. Well, you know what, and they're like, well, what do we do now? And Mourinho is like one of the strongest names for that job now. So, I mean, I think personally,
there's also rumours of him taking over England as well.
Oh yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, look, I think that I think the English football is run too well to appoint Mourinho. I don't see them seeing Mourinho as somebody that fits in to their vision of development and player development, and also the way they handle themselves off the pitch. But with Brazil, I wouldn't put it past them because, like I said, I think they're run so badly. That federation is run so badly, and they're almost chasing a big name now, and they're also chasing a foreign name rather than a Brazilian name. So I think he could be a possibility for Brazil. I think, like you, that international management is maybe the best way for him to go now. He's in his 60s now. And as we've said, he's not able to get a tune out of the biggest teams anymore. I don't think he's going to get an offer at one of the biggest teams anymore. I can't see it. I
think it would be a mistake for him to go to Newcastle as well. I think he would get along really well with the fan base. Again, us against the world mentality. It's a club that, is not part of the football establishment. They're under attack. I mean, they feel they're under attack and blah, blah, blah. I think he will work there, but I just don't think the Premier League is for the right place for him to go. And I've also saw some crazy rumor of him going back to Chelsea, which made me laugh, because that would just be that would just show what an absolute joke Chelsea are.
Well, Todd Bowley, I mean, don't put anything past him.
No. But I just want to reiterate again. I think from a strategic point of view, they've played the Friedkins have played this brilliantly. They've gotten rid of a very popular manager. They've replaced him with a demigod in the Giallorossi part of Rome, who's destined to fail. And then they don't have to worry about calls for him to ever be called again for as long as a manager. They don't have to worry about fans calling for De Rossi once they get rid of him too in the summer. When everything goes pear-shaped, which it will. I mean, I consider this season over for Roma now. I don't see Roma progressing very far in the Europa League. I don't think Roma will be in the top 4 race for much longer. I expect this to go the Mazzarri route. As much as I love Daniele De Rossi as a player, I don't rate him as a coach.
Yeah, no. Talking about De Rossi and what we can expect from De Rossi at Roma. Obviously, he's only had one managerial job, and that was with Spal. And we've had Joe Tacopina, the owner of Spal, on the pod. And you asked him about him last time he come on. I mean, Tacopina spoke quite highly of De Rossi, didn't he? But then he also got rid of him. So, what can we expect of De Rossi?
I think what you will see is someone who loves Roma, who will have all the players at every training session fighting for the shirt, what it means to play for Roma. But tactically, he's inept, and I'm not sure he can get. I'm not sure. I'm almost adamant that the season's over for Roma. Roma's going to finish 7th, 8th, 9th, something like that, and that'll be the end of Daniele De Rossi as a first-team manager at Roma. I just don't see it going well at all, and I think the Friedkins are okay with that because what you're essentially saying is now, okay, they have to. I mean, the reports coming out now that they have to raise 60 million in transfer fees in revenue by the end of June to meet financial fair play standards, and to me, that is just essentially a fire sale. I expect Dybala to be sold. I expect Tammy Abraham to be sold.
They're not going to get much for Dybala because he's got a very low release clause.
But it's still 15 million euros, 15, 20 million goes a lot way when you got 60 million you got to make. So I think it's a new project. I think you're going to see a new project similarly to what we saw a few years ago when Sabatini came in. And first of all, they have to find a new sporting director. They have to, who in turn then finds a new coach, and then they have to start selling players and sacrificing players to meet these ridiculous financial fair play demands, which only seem to apply to Inter and Roma in Italy, and not very many other clubs because they appeal for some reason. Roma and Inter don't appeal UEFA's decisions. But it is what it is. The Friedkins have spent 800 million euros between buying the club and trying to get the club off the stock market, which they have succeeded in order to be able to have more maneuver room. And now they're in the settlement agreement, which they have to respect, and they have a new project they have to build. It's dark. It's a very unstable time for Roma. To Roma fans, I say enjoy this period because De Rossi is a club legend. You have fantastic attackers up front. Enjoy European football. I hope I'm wrong and that you go all the way and win the Europa League and get yourselves into the Champions League. That would be unbelievable because you're not going to get into Europe any other way. I just don't see that happening.
I find it hard to actually make a prediction to Rossi because I didn't see much of Spal. I know he was sacked there and everything, but I almost feel like it's a shot in the dark. I don't want to come out and say he's definitely going to fail because I've got nothing to go on. Whereas with Mazzari and when I was Garcia, like that was a guarantee that they were going to fail. We've seen them in the last decade, and they've both been just out of their depth. Whereas De Rossi, I mean it's a gamble. It's a huge gamble you're taking on someone. And the thing is that Roma are not, they're only 5 points off. Even though they're down in 9th place, they're only 5 points off Fiorentina in 4th place for that Champions League spot. And also remember that 5th place, as it stands, will get a Champions League place for next season as well. So I mean, they still can recover in Serie A as well. But at the same time, that doesn't mean I'm saying they were wrong to get rid of Mourinho because he clearly wasn't getting results to them and it wasn't working. So I think they made the right decision. I think to get rid of Mourinho. The question is whether De Rossi. No,
I think it was a mistake.
Is whether De Rossi is the man to turn it around.
I think it's a mistake. I think it was they should have kept Mourinho until the end of the season because at least that way that Mourinho's teams always deliver in Europe. Daniele De Rossi will not. I'm very confident in saying that Daniele De Rossi will fail at Roma. I don't see this as a long-term solution at all. I see this more as a way of protecting. As I said, it's a strategic decision you get rid of an incredibly popular popular coach in Mourinho, but you replace him with the second most popular person in all of Romanità, namely Daniele De Rossi. You know that he's probably going to fail, so you don't have to worry about sacking him and kicking him out come the end of the season, and then you don't have to deal with the De Rossi nonsense ever again. And that way, it gives you completely way to say, wipe the slate clean, new sporting project, new sporting director, new coach. Here we start from scratch. So.
Perhaps, but why did you do that in January? Why you could have done that in March? I mean, now you are. I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. I mean, the Milan game. Let's talk about it from the Milan point of view. It was a very comfortable win for Milan against Roma, and they were completely dominant and in control of this entire game until the penalty that Calabria gave away with 20 minutes to go, and then Roma kind of had a little bit of a flurry and a little bit of a. They threatened an equaliser before Milan put them away. But Milan are. I mean, Pioli was in a position not too dissimilar to Mourinho in terms of being under a lot of pressure. But now Milan have really turned it around. They've won 6. They've got 6 wins in their last 8 now since that Newcastle win. And domestically at least they picked it up. Obviously. There is the other side that they did get knocked out by Atalanta in the Coppa Italia, which is a big blow which is a big, big blow because, I mean, now Milan have only really got one chance now of winning a title this season, and that's the Europa League. So, you know, I think Milan have really picked it up, and they're playing well, aren't they, at the moment?
No, they are. They really are. And I think that there was an instance, for me, it was a bit of a test. I look at this game a little bit as a test for Pioli and his Milan, in the sense that Milan were really dominant. They go 2-0 up. Then Calabria loses his head and does what Calabria always does and puts Milan in trouble. They score, Roma reduce the deficit to half the deficit. Then I'm starting to think this reminds me of the Milan-Roma game last season when Milan were 2-0 up and just collapsed in the final 15 minutes to 2-2. Then I look at, and then I was like waiting, okay, how do Milan respond to this? And they were a bit nervy. There was a little bit of nervousness, but instead we see the individual brilliance pay off, the individual quality pay off, with Giroud and Theo scoring a marvelous goal, and Milan see off the game. So this was a test for Milan, and they passed it. They did, and to me that shows growth. So for this Milan, so no, Milan are comfortably in third. I still think they will have some part to play in the title race, because I'd be very surprised if Juve and Inter both end up on north of 90 points. So, you know, we'll see.
But it means Milan can't slip up, basically. That's the thing.
No, they can't. Exactly. They can't afford to mess up anything else. They have to go on a winning run. But what's good for them is that they're comfortably going to finish third. That's good for them. That means they can focus on the Europa League as well, which I hope they take seriously. And I hope they go far and win it. I want an Italian team in the final again of the Europa League. I'm really hoping for that.
No, I think they have to take it seriously, because they have to try and go for a trophy. Milan, if it is a Milan like the past that were always challenging for trophies, then they have to always try and at least fight for a title. And they didn't win anything last season. And, you know, they don't want to go out with a whimper way off the Scudetto race and out of the Coppa Italia and you know, go out early of the Europa League as well. But I mean, the big positives from this game in terms of the players, I thought Giroud was fantastic. I've complained that he's not consistent enough now to be Milan's regular number 9. The good performances are becoming rarer and rarer. And this was the Giroud that we need to see more consistently. He scored. He had a fantastic back heel assist for the Theo Hernandez goal. And, you know, he's not been scoring enough, but this was the Giroud that we need to see more of. Theo Hernandez, of course, fantastic goal. Adli, I thought, was a really great goal. Did the feint inside. I call that my skill. That was my signature move when I used to play Nima. I used to do that move all the time. I used to feint to shoot on one foot, bring it onto the other foot. The defender would always fall for the dummy, and then you shoot with the other foot. That was a lovely goal from Adli. I thought Reinders magical at times. Some of his little bursts and moves. I really think Reinders, with the right coach, maybe it's Pioli, but with the right coach, I think Reinders has got a really high ceiling.
I do as well.
If he's developed, he needs the right coach, the right environment, the right setup, the right kind of playing in the right kind of football.
And also, I mean, Adli, you know how much I rate Adli, and I love these little runs and bursts that he does. He's got so much talent. I just, the more I look at this Milan, the more I just think that we are headed for the. I mean, some people say Thiago Motta. That makes more sense from a Jerry Cardinale and the perspective of, you know, young and blah blah blah, and also that way you can also kind of guarantee that Joshua Zirkzee will prefer going to Milan. But I still think Antonio Conte is, if you want to win the Scudetto in the next year or two, you go for Antonio Conte, because Thiago Motta has never coached at a big club before, even though he played at many. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. It's interesting, especially as Milan, and we'll deal with this now. We're going to talk about it after. That Milan are also looking to try and sign Buongiorno from Torino. Yeah. Who I think it will be very, very difficult for them to sign him in January. I think his price tag is too high. I think it's more realistic. And also Torino want to keep him this month as well. I think it's more realistic that he leaves Torino in the summer, wherever that may be. But we know that Milan want him. We know that Buongiorno would like to move and move to a big club. and his numbers this season are fantastic as well. He's in all the main categories in terms of tackles, in terms of interceptions, in terms of aerial challenges. He's right up there with everyone. Buongiorno. He's been one of the best defenders in Serie A this season. He's right up there. He's been fantastic, and also he had that great game also for Italy, didn't he? In that crucial Euro qualifier against Ukraine. He played in that game, didn't he? And he played really, really well in that match. So with Buongiorno, the question is, I mean, I hope that Milan sign him. If Milan sign him, I hope he's signed to play in a back four, because that's what I want. I want our defenders to play in back fours, because for the Italy national team more than anything else. But Milan are going for Buongiorno. Is there? It does make you think, the fact that he plays in a back three for Torino. It does make you think: are they signing him for Antonio Conte? You know, there is that question to ask, isn't there? With Buongiorno, so maybe it's possible.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, right. Let's move on to Juventus and the most recent game. So that was on Tuesday night. Juventus win 3-0 against Sassuolo. It was a game that I don't think Juventus played particularly well, but they were so comfortable and they barely broke sweat throughout the game. Because
Sassuolo are dreadful. They really are an awful side.
They didn't play well. No, they didn't offer.
They are awful. They are awful. Let's be honest.
Well, they're awful, but they've beaten three of the big teams in Serie A this season, including Juventus and Inter. So
because Inter choked against them, and Juve choked against them away as well. They are an awful side, and they will need to do something, because if it weren't for the others being as bad as they are, they could really, really be relegated. There's a real chance of that. And it's strange to say that about Sassuolo, but they are really poor. And Consigli, oh my God.
Consigli had one of the biggest shockers I've seen. He was at fault for all three goals, particularly the first two.
I mean, they've got Cranio in goal. I don't understand why they don't give him a chance. I mean, he can't be...
I don't like Cranio either, to be honest with you.
Well, I prefer Cranio to Consigli. So
I think he likes Consigli because he is on the ball with his feet. He's absolutely insane. I mean, he's like Onana. He's like the Italian Onana with his feet. I mean, he's brilliant. Like some of the passes he does. But I mean, it doesn't help if you're letting goals like he did against Juventus. But I mean, look, talking from the Juventus point of view, they were 2-0 up at half time. Do you know what the XG was at half time? No. 0.27 XG, and they were 2-0. They were 2-0 up. Juventus actually didn't create a chance in this game until the 75th minute, when Chiesa cut it back for Weah and he put it over. That's actually the first chance that Juventus had in the game. They didn't create anything, but they also conceded nothing at all. They're rock solid. They're organised. They're structured. And once they get ahead, Juventus, they seem to have this Allegri has this knack of being able to just kill games in terms of just like it's almost like they sap the strength and the energy out of the opposition to be able to do anything. Like it's just like one of those superpowers that where you just take the strength out of the opposition and take the sting out of them. But we have to look at Vlahovic, because he was the guy that really, with Juventus not playing well, he was the guy that broke the deadlock in this game it was an excellent strike, left foot, beautiful left foot, but yes, it's virtually in the middle of the goal. Consigli should do better. The second goal, the free kick, is a brilliant free kick. It's fantastic. You just don't see many. You don't see many free kick goals anymore. It's partly, I think, mostly down to the footballs. They're all these plastic beach balls that people just don't seem to be able to get up and down anymore. Maybe the pitches as well, because they're semi-plastic synthetic pitches, and you can't get under the ball. You can't get under the ball as well. Like, you ever try and take a free kick on concrete and then try and take a free kick on real grass, you'll see the difference. You'll know what I mean. Maybe it's that as well. Maybe it's just that players don't practice it enough. Maybe it's that players...
Or maybe it's also partly what I've been saying for a long time, and that is that football is moving away from skill to athleticism.
That as well, yeah.
Individual skill and technique.
And also, I think it's also down to, and I know this for a fact, that it's actually because football teams, they have all these stats teams, and they look at the numbers of how many goals are scored from long shots and also from free kicks, that the numbers are so low that they're also teaching players just not to shoot. In open play, just don't shoot from long range because the chances of scoring are so low. There's actually a higher probability rather than taking a long shot from 30 yards and just keeping the ball, passing it out wide and put a cross in, or trying to 1-2 or trying to through ball. There's more chances of scoring that way than there is. And so they're drilling that into teams. So players are shooting less from long range. But free kicks is a slightly different dynamic, especially when there's a chance from right on the edge of the area. But you just don't get. And I think that's what makes football one of the reasons why I don't enjoy football as much nowadays as I do in the past. Like these kind of beautiful artistic things, like long range goals and like brilliant direct free kicks. You just don't see them much anymore.
No, skill. The individual skill has gone down. It's more about athleticism. It's all about systematic. And that's great. I think you can have both. I just don't like seeing skill sacrificed at the altar of systematic football.
It's gone too far. And that's why when you see a free kick like this, even though, again, I think Consigli should do better. He doesn't move his feet enough. He didn't actually have to travel that far. It's still a great free kick. It's a fantastic free kick. It's off the bar and in. He's put it in a great area. He's whipped it in with a lot of pace. It's a fantastic free kick. A good keeper, a top keeper saves it, but I don't want to take anything away from Vlahovic. These are two fantastic shots and it shows, the left foot quality that he has in that left foot. He has a special left foot. He has a left foot that there's only a few players really in European football that have a left foot that's better than that. You're talking a Messi or Dybala or I don't know, a Haaland or, there's not many players that can shoot with that left foot with the power and accuracy that Vlahovic can. So this was even though the keeper should have done better, this was a demonstration of that. And in general, talking about Vlahovic, he's becoming increasingly more decisive with his performances. He, as we said last week or the week before, he's got that determination, that serenity. Mentally, I think he's taken a leap recently. His hold-up play wasn't as good in this game as it was against Roma. It was mixed. He had some good moments where he held it up and laid up. He also had the odd heavy touch here and there. But his hold-up play has definitely improved as well in recent weeks. So, yeah, you have to take your hat off to Vlahovic. He was the one that really was the difference in this game because, as I said, Juventus didn't actually create a clear chance to the 75th minute. It was Vlahovic scoring two goals, really almost kind of out of nothing, really. So Vlahovic becoming an important player for Juventus again.
No, he is, and he's becoming decisive for Juve, and building. This young Juve continues to take steps in the right direction, and proving that Allegri can work with kids, and that this is a serious title race, and as I said before, I think Juve are going to win it. I think this is going to be Allegri's greatest miracle as a coach. And I know before people stop pissing and moaning about, he's the highest paid coach in the league and they're paying the highest wage bill. I'm quite aware of that. But I think as Fabio Paratici's career has demonstrated at Juve, spending lots of money doesn't necessarily translate into spending money on quality. So no, you can't sit here and tell me that Juventus squad is qualitatively the best in the Serie A. That's ludicrous. It's not. They are Inter's is on paper, and I think we could also argue Napoli's is. But what Juve are doing because of Allegri is that they've got a structure in place. They've got a very organized structure in place. Bremer has really come to his own this season. He's been arguably the best central defender.
He's been incredible, hasn't he?
Serie A, and he's starting to prove what a fantastic player he is and what he offers. And that stability in the system, and also integrating young players into this, and Vlahovic giving him the time to succeed, and giving him the time to fail and allowing him to learn from that, and consistently going with that. And systematically grinding teams down I think one thing that's been very, very important in the last weeks, let's say the last 3 to 4 weeks, is, and I said this in December in the pod, I said, look, it's unsustainable for Juventus to keep winning without their attackers contributing anything, because Juventus went through this long run, probably 6 or 7 games, where they just kept winning 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, thanks to goals from headers from defenders or from midfielders, and the attack were contributing nothing. I said, look,
the attackers need to score. If Juventus are going to actually try and stay with Inter and try and challenge them for the Scudetto, the attackers need to start scoring, and they have been. In the last 3 to 4 weeks, the attackers have started to score. Vlahovic has scored 2 here. He's been, like I said before, he's really picked up in the last month. Milik scored 3 in the Coppa Italia in the last midweek. Yildiz, of course, has had this breakthrough with 3 goals in the last month. And Chiesa as well come back on the score sheet in this game. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first open play goal that Chiesa scored since that defeat to Sassuolo back in September. That's how long Chiesa hasn't scored in open play. He did score a penalty in that draw against Genoa in Serie A. So I mean, this is crucial, because there are going to, and like I said before, there are going to be games where you don't play well or they are tight, and that's when you need your attackers to score. And like Vlahovic did in this game also, to produce a moment on their own out of nothing, to break the deadlock. That's what top players are for. That's the difference that the top players make, and that's what you need from your attackers. So that is very, very important. And also there's Moise Kean as well, who we'll have to see what happens if he goes out on loan. I would keep him personally. From Juventus' point of view, keep him. Have those 5 players because that's a lot of potential firepower you've got there between now and the end of the season. I know from Keane's point of view, he might want to leave to guarantee more playing time with the Euros. From Italy's point of view, it's probably better. And from Luciano Spalletti's point of view, it's probably better that Moise Kean leaves, certainly on loan till the end of the season. But from Juventus' point of view, I'd keep him. There's potential goals. There's a lot of potential goals now in the Juventus attack. So that is very, very positive. And it just completes the circle, really, from that 4-1 defeat in September to Sassuolo, where everything was a complete mess. Juventus has had a bad start to the season again. Everyone was thinking this is just the 3rd season in a row like it's been under Allegri. And now, since their record since then is played 17, won 14, drawn 3, lost none, and they've only conceded 6 goals in 17 games, which, as I said the other week, is comparable to Inter's defence. Might even be better than Inter's defence in that time period, not overall the whole season. So, it's looking good. Now they have the chance to go top. They have to beat Lecce at the weekend, because if they beat Lecce at the weekend, with Inter playing in the Super Cup, they go top of the league, and then they start to put pressure on Inter. Then we start to see, what will Inter be like, behind with the game coming in the beginning of February at Inter versus Juve in Milan. It creates another dynamic, especially from a mental point of view, which is probably Juventus' strong point, I think, is the mental point of view right now. Which is exactly why I think
that Juve will win the Serie A this season, because playing once a week and going ahead of Inter, even though they have one game played more, with Inter traveling to Saudi Arabia, this ridiculous cup, and then in the Champions League, I think it's going to have an impact. I don't, but for Inter's perspective, then Inter just have to repeat the first opening half of the season, meaning, if they draw Juve, they don't have to beat Juve. They just need to draw Juve and to beat Atalanta at home in that game where they've got in hand. And then they're masters of their own destiny. But it does put pressure on Inter, and I think that Inter in these situations, I don't think that this Inter, from ownership to management to players to coach to everyone, they've never been locked in a title race with Juve. They don't know what that means. They don't understand the dynamics of that. And I hope I'm wrong, and that Marotta's ice cold, calm leadership is able to break that spell. I just don't think it will. I don't know.
We'll see. No, it's fantastic. It's fascinating. I think, there's no doubt Inter are definitely the clear favourites. They've got the better team. They've got the better squad. They've got the better attack. They've got the better defence. Despite what you said, they've definitely got more experience. That's seen by the players. The experience getting to the Champions League final. This Juventus team, not many of them have won a Scudetto. None of them, very few of them have been in a title race at all. Only a very few players, whereas Inter players have. So I think everything goes in Inter's favour in terms of quality and experience and everything. But Juventus obviously playing once a week is big. It is very important, especially if Inter go deep in the Champions League, which I really believe they're good enough to go deep in the Champions League. They've got the quality. There's no doubt about it. And that will take it out of them later on. But it also depends how far Inter go. If Inter get knocked out in the last 16, then of course the dynamic changes again. So
Which
there's
is
lots of
why-
ifs and buts, and could there be injuries and all
which
these?
is why I'm hoping and praying that Inter lose to Lazio on Friday in the Supercoppa. I think this is a complete irrelevant tournament. I would have rather played Atalanta, and I hope that they don't go deep in it. I hope they punt it. I really don't.
There's
want
no third and fourth playoff, right? It's just
No,
semi-final then final.
Yeah, semi-final, final. So I hope Inter play on Friday, and I hope.
And
when's
the final? When's the final if they go through?
I think it was on Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. I think so, because if I remember correctly, the second semi-final is on Saturday, isn't it?
I thought it was Thursday and Friday.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's Thursday and Friday. Sorry. Let me just.
So it's probably Monday or Tuesday the final, then, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me just see. Yeah, it's it doesn't. It's
Monday. It's Monday. I've checked it.
It's Monday.
Yeah. Monday evening.
Yeah, Monday evening. So for me, from that perspective, I hope Inter lose this because, again, look, Inter have already won the Super Cup twice, two years in a row, having beaten Juventus and Milan, and those are the only times the Super Cup ever matters for Inter, Juve, and Milan is when they play each other. Other than that, who cares? Especially when you're locked in a title race, a title that you really want to win, and then you have a great chance to win. So for me, punt it. Couldn't care less. Let Lazio and Napoli have a chance. Good luck to them.
Yeah, okay. Well, on Inter, though, I mean, they were absolutely fantastic against Monza. 5-1. They had an XG of just under 5 as well in this game. I mean, totally dominated. You could see from the first 5 minutes they were going to absolutely run right in this game. They were creating chance after chance right from the first whistle. They're now the second highest scorers in Europe this season. 49 goals, behind only Bayern Munich. And
if Inter are to win the Serie A, this is exactly the kind of response they have to give to all the nonsense from last week's Bastoni bullshit that we all had to listen to. This is the kind of performance I want to see week in, week out in the Serie A. Whether it's Monza, Juve, Roma, Lazio, Hellas, whoever. This is the kind of performance I want to see from Inter. I want an Inter that goes out there and, shows who's the boss. Against these lesser teams, these smaller teams. And one thing they've done, which I noticed in the Monza game, as opposed to so far this season, is that Inter have kind of played long game in games. They kind of, said, okay, the game is 2 halves, it's 90 minutes. We don't need to bum rush and destroy the opposition within the first 30 minutes. And that's kind of been a stressing factor for them. But the fact that they used to do that in previous seasons used to become a stress factor for them because they used to create chance after chance after chance. They didn't score, the opposition scored, and they mentally started hanging with their heads. But so far this season, it's been another way around. We've seen a maturity. But that has also led, which is what's so difficult about the Serie A, is that your opposition reads you quickly, and then they start adapting to you accordingly. So what Inter did and Simone Inzaghi did in this game was to say, no, actually, we're going to go for it from minute 1. And they did. And they absolutely, Palladino said it best after the game when he said that, look, Inter didn't give us a second, didn't give us an inch to breathe. And, they were all over us from the first minute. And they completely dominated. And just showed that imposed themselves on the opponent, especially if it's a smaller team away from home, and won deservedly. They were outstanding, and if they are to win the Scudetto, if they are to win the Serie A, this is how Inter have to perform. They have to understand that a win against Milan is worth as much as a win against Monza away, and they have to treat every single game like a cup final. In the Serie A. And it's for that reason that I don't think that if they're, this Supercoppa and the Champions League, I don't really care. I really want, it's so important when they've gone out and said that they want to win the Serie A, that they actually win the Serie A, because that's not good for their belief and confidence if they don't win it. So this is what they have to do. This is the approach, the mentality, the attitude they have to have if they are to win that Serie A title.
Yeah, and Lautaro again, 2 more goals, 18 now. Thuram, another goal and assist. This partnership is incredible. Çalhanoğlu, we've said it before.
Unbelievable.
He's the best central midfielder in the league. There's no doubt about that. And he's, so lethal from penalty. He didn't score the second penalty. He'd already gone off, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why Lautaro took it.
Okay, all right. Because I did write down that he'd broken the record for Milito and Zlatan, but he didn't take the second one, so that was wrong. He's so good at penalties. He's so good at set pieces. He's long shots, as we were saying before. Basically the way that he's so clean with the way that he strikes the ball. He's a fantastic player. He really is.
But Inter,
I have to say though, Nima, though, I have to say Monza. We talk about Sassuolo. Monza have been awful this season. They've been a real big disappointment for me this season. Monza against the big clubs. This season against the big clubs, they've been dominated by Inter home and away 2-0 and 5-1, beaten by Juventus 2-1, thrashed by Milan 3-0, thrashed by Atalanta 3-0, beaten by Roma 1-0. They were lucky to get a draw against Napoli, and they drew with Lazio. I mean, they've been so bad this season. I've been really disappointed by them as well. I was as good as Inter were. I have to say, I have been disappointed by Monza. Palladino, I think, has taken a bit of a step back this season. He was somebody that everybody was talking so highly about last season, and I've been disappointed by them this season.
I think they're more attacking mind, like they're much more open this season. They're easily to carve out this season than they were last season, and you've seen that because you've seen more attacking youngsters coming through and making a name for themselves. Carboni, Colpani, Churia, etc. So there's that's part of it. But it's. I
think it's also with Monza that I don't think they had the best transfer market either. I think, like, if you look at the players they lost last season, like they lost Vella, they lost Sensi, and then if you look at the players they brought in defence, D'Ambrosio has passed it. Calderola, I don't know where this revisionism has come with Calderola, that he's some kind of great player all of a sudden. He's not. And we saw that in this game. Not. He's really not a good player. He has a couple of good games, scores a couple of headers off corners, and all of a sudden people think he's great. He's not. And then Cagliardini playing in defence in this game. I don't know what the hell that was all about. So I don't know. I think, and even Pessina has he's out of been dropped from the Italy squad. I know he scored a goal that got disallowed, but he's not been the same player that he was a couple of years ago, and they're not getting much out of their attackers either. So I've been a bit disappointed with Monza, even though they're quite comfortable in the table.
I got to be honest with you. I'm not disappointed with Monza. They're smack in the middle where I expected them to be. I'm a little bit disappointed maybe with how they've fallen through in some games, but overall I think they're having a season on par with exactly the kind of season I expected them to have, if I'm perfectly honest.
Let's move on to Napoli now. Napoli get out of jail, beating Salernitana 2-1 with a 96-minute winner off a corner from Rrahmani. Is this the goal and the result that turns their season around, Nima?
I think that's too soon to say, but it's definitely a win that they desperately craved. I wonder if they had not won that game, Napoli, how De Laurentiis reacts to that, because it's you don't beat Salernitana, who are dead last, then you're in trouble. But they did win. Some would say they were lucky. Others say they deserved it. Doesn't matter where you stand. It's still not a good performance by Napoli, if you ask me. I think there are still questions to be had. And now they go into the Super Cup. They're playing Fiorentina on Thursday, or tomorrow. We're recording this on Wednesday. And then, they won't play again until the 28th, where they play Lazio away, a direct rival for that fourth spot. And then they've got Verona at home and Milan away, and then Napoli at home, and then the Champions League. So it's they need to put points on the board, and they managed to do that. And at the end of the day, that's kind of all that matters. But again, not an impressive performance at all by any stretch of the imagination by Napoli.
Yeah, I mean, if we try and look at this positively, they needed the win. They needed the points. It's crucial. And you look at now the top four race, which we're going to come to now, they're right there. They're right back in the top four race. And they They're on, they're still down in 8th, but they're on 31 points, and Fiorentina are 4th with 34 points. So, you know, they're right in there. So they needed the win. Some might say that maybe a draw or a loss in the long term might have been better if it meant that Mazzarri was gonna get sacked. That's probably my school of thought. But yes, it wasn't good. It was an abysmal first half. They created nothing. They went 1-0 down. They were lucky to get a penalty in injury time of first half out of nothing. It was one of those modern penalties that Mourinho was complaining about that was similar to the one that Huijsen conceded against Lazio in the Coppa Italia that got Lazio the win against Roma. And, you know, the patterns of play, the attack was pretty impotent, with the exception really of Kvaratskhelia, who was trying to do it all alone, which didn't work, but did at the end. He went on 2 fantastic runs at the end and shots. One that he should have scored, another one which he was just really unlucky. It just doesn't feel like a team anymore. It feels like they're not playing as a team.
There's no cohesion.
There's no cohesion at all.
There's none. It literally is 11 individuals. And it's remarkable how this has deteriorated, how quickly it has. And how
it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I mean, defensively, they conceded nothing in this game. Candreva scored another wonder goal, which he always does against big teams. That's the positive. But at the same time, you've got to remember this. Who are they playing? They're playing Salernitana, bottom of the table. You know, and don't get me wrong, I feel awful for Salernitana. They've been so unlucky this season.
I was going to say, they are so
2
unlucky.
games in a row, they've conceded 90 injury time goals.
Yeah.
I think they're the team with the most points dropped from winning positions this season. So many of them late goals to cost them. I feel awful. I felt so sorry for Inzaghi. You could see he looked crushed at the end. Yeah. And I thought it was a really nice touch. As much as I criticised Mazzarri, I thought that was a beautiful human touch for him to go over to Inzaghi and give him a hug before even the final whistle had been blown. You know, when the goal went in, he went over to him, he gave him a hug just to say, well, what can I say? You know, I'm so sorry. Like, he was almost apologising. You know, I thought that was really, really nice. I felt awful for him, but from Napoli's point of view, you shouldn't be struggling like this I don't see anything from this to suggest that they're going to turn it around. I don't. I really don't. Also, Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen are out of the next game against Lazio. So is Anguissa, of course, because he's at the Africa Cup of Nations. Can you see them beating Lazio in form at the moment without those 3? I mean, I can't.
I can't either. But at the same time, I don't trust Lazio, and so
I don't. But I mean, who's going to play up front? Zerbin. I mean, what is this obsession with Zerbin? I mean, this is another criticism I've got to make not about Mazzarri, but about De Laurentiis and the transfer market that's been so bad this summer. Lazio let Elmas go before the January transfer market started, right? He knew that Anguissa as well was going to the Africa Cup of Nations. This is a Napoli midfield that was already short. So they've had to start the first games of 2024 so short on centre midfielders that in this game, they had to start Cayuste and Gaetano against Salernitana. I mean, that is just unforgivable. If you're going to let Elmas go, fine. But you have to have a replacement in for him already so that you can go into your games with available options, not playing Gaetano and Cayuste because you've rushed to get him out of the door and you haven't brought in a replacement. It's embarrassing. It's always amateur management from De Laurentiis and the. I mean, who the hell is? I don't even know who's in charge of transfers at the moment. I have no idea who's making the calls. It's such a mess there. I mean, that's just. I mean, Cayuste's vision is abysmal. His vertical passes, his. I mean, there was the second half. There was an example in the second half where he had an easy ball across the 6-yard box for a tap in at the far post. And he was on the left-hand side of the penalty area. And all he had to do is put it a ball across the box, tap in at the far post, and he passed it backwards to a Napoli player behind him. He just does not see things at all. But it wasn't just him. It wasn't just him. It's just Gaetano came off. I mean, is this what's come to for Napoli? I mean, I know they're signing players now. It looks like Ngonj is whose name I always butcher every time, is coming in from Verona. And they're obviously trying to sign a centre midfielder, Samacic, Kone, but they're struggling with both of those. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight how bad the management has been with the transfer market, that you let Elmas go and you don't have replacements for him.
100%. I've got nothing more to add. You're absolutely spot on.
Yeah. I do want to, again, I feel like I do this at least 3 or 4 times a season, but Candreva again, I mean, what a goal. What a goal. His record against big clubs is insane. I've talked about his long-range shooting and how insane his long-range shooting is, and how he's been one of the best in Europe in the last decade at scoring goals from outside the area. This season, though, against the big clubs, he scored against Roma twice, Lazio, Milan and Napoli this season. And last season, he scored against Inter, Juventus, Lazio, Roma, Atalanta. And this is for Salernitana, the bottom of the table. And he scored 6 goals this season already for the team that are bottom of the league, playing from, wide midfield. And he turns 37 next month. I mean, I love the guy. He's just, I love him. I absolutely love him. I know Inter fans like yourself, obviously being an Inter fan, you're not going to have the same love. I just love the guy. I really do. I think he's amazing. I think he's absolutely amazing. And this was another fantastic goal from him.
No, it was an absolutely stunning goal. There's no doubt about that. It was genuinely unbelievable. It was a beautiful, beautiful worked goal. But no, look, it's he. This is the thing with him, that it's been the problem with him in his entire career, hasn't it? That he kind of always, like, he can't deliver at the biggest clubs and biggest stage, but he's too good to be in a mediocre club either. It's like you're kind of difficult to place
stuck in between worlds.
Yeah, stuck in between worlds. And but his long shots are ridiculous. It's just, he scored some insane
he can lace them,
well.
But he can also curl them like he did in this one. He can do both.
No, I've seen him
both
score
feet as well.
Mad goals, both for Inter as well, like absolutely insane goals.
Yeah.
No, I love
him. I love him. I hope he keeps playing. Right, let's have a look at the top 4 race now. Let's go through this a little bit quickly because we're running out of time. So let me first of all read out the table, because it is so tight there in the top 4 race. So we have, obviously, the top 3 are way ahead. Then we have Fiorentina in 4th, 34 points. Atalanta 5th, 33. Lazio 6th, 33. Bologna 7th, 32. Napoli 8th, 31. Roma 9th, 29. And then even Torino in 10th on 28. So there's 6 points between 4th and 10th. And 5 points between 4th and 9th. So it's really, really tight. And then the results involving the top 4 teams this latest round were Genoa, Torino 0-0, and Napoli, of course, winning 2-1 against Salernitana. Lazio winning 1-0 against Lecce. Bologna losing again. They're on a bad run now. They lost 2-1 to Cagliari. And then Fiorentina drawing 2-2 with Udinese, and Milan losing 3-1. Sorry, Roma losing 3-1 to Milan, and Atalanta thrashing Frosinone 5-0. So I'll run through these. So Atalanta, first of all, they've won 7 of their last 9 games in all competitions. They're in great form. Tketila's got a great goal. Ederson, after Çalhanoğlu, best centre midfielder in Serie A this season for me. Been fantastic this season. But I also want to say about Frosinone, they're in free fall. They're only 2 points above the relegation zone now. They've got 5 defeats in a row in all comps, 1 point in 7 games in Serie A. Should Di Francesco be sacked, Nima?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? But maybe
how long do you let them keep losing like this, though?
Well, that's the thing, though. I think I'd still want to give him a little bit more time. But unless something changes, it's time to do something, because they could really, really be relegated. Despite all the great things they've done, it could be worth nothing. Yeah, if we're perfectly honest.
They're so open every game.
Yeah, but that's when you hire.
No, but not. The beginning of the season they were open, but they weren't like they are now. Now there's XGs against them of 4 and 5, like regularly, which is just insane. Lazio, I thought, were fortunate to beat Lecce. They didn't play well. They were very flat, as I think Sarri said even before the game. But they got 5 wins in a row now, and they're getting results. There's been a mentality switch there, I think, for Lazio. And obviously beating Roma in the Coppa is massive for them and their fans as well in the semi-finals of that. I think it's no coincidence what this resurgence of form is. It's obvious what it is. They're not playing in Europe now because it's stopped. They're playing once a week. Okay, there's the Coppa game, but when they're only playing domestically, Lazio can handle it. They can't handle playing two competitions. I honestly think it's as simple as that in terms of being up there to challenge the top four and not being down in mid-table like they were before.
I think there's truth to that. I think there is truth to that. There is some truth to that, and it's they're going to be out of the Champions League soon because they won't stand a snowball's chance in hell against Bayern Munich. So now they can focus on the league, and they are doing it, and they will. They look once again like a side that will challenge for a top four spot. The problem is, I wonder if I'm starting to think, can they actually do it now? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to think, can they actually? I don't know. I think it's too easy to every week say, oh, I think it could be this team this week, could be this team this week, could be this team this week, because like everybody's given us reasons to doubt them, if you know what I mean. And Let me
so
put it
many
this way.
teams.
I think Napoli will finish in the top four. I still think they'll turn it around, but I think that Fiorentina and Atalanta will drop off. So yeah, I'm going to go with Napoli and Lazio, 4th and 5th.
I think I'm ready to discount Fiorentina, Bologna, and Torino, but I think Atalanta, Lazio, and I even think Napoli and Roma, as much as they're a mess, total mess with the coaching situation, I wouldn't rule them out either. So I think it all depends what's happening each week. But Bologna definitely have had a downturn in form now. They really have. They've lost their way. And they don't. One thing about Bologna is even when they were doing well, and don't remember they were my dark horses to finish in Europe, not Champions League, but in Europe this season at the start. They don't score many goals at all. They have one of the worst attacking records in Serie A. Actually, well, they're a bottom half team. Their attack this season in terms of goals. So they don't score enough goals, Bologna, and that means I think they might drop points, draws when they should win, and
I agree. I think that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, I'll just read out the other result was Verona 2, Empoli 1, which makes the relegation race even tighter now. It's
a hornet's nest, and this weekend Salernitana play Genoa, and if they win that, I mean, oh my god,
they have to win it, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
They're 6 points off safety now. I mean, they risk being left behind, which is a shame. They don't deserve it. They deserve to be higher.
No,
and in many ways, I feel like Salernitana have more quality than Empoli and Verona, and even Cagliari. I feel like they have more qualities, but they also have a lot of gaps in their team as well. So it's going to be difficult for them. It's very, very tight at the bottom. Just before we go on to two quick segments before we do Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. First of all, I want to do a profile on. Shall we do a profile or should we leave it?
Let's do
a profile. Okay, what have I done with it?
It's right there. This is good. This is great content to listen to. Me and Carlo.
I don't know where it's gone. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay. So who is Kenan Yildiz? Juventus's Turkish Del Piero. So right, let's profile Kenan Yildiz, who's been the breakout star of Juventus this season. 18 years old. And he's been compared to, of course, the Juventus legend Alessandro Del Piero, who he has.
I died inside when I saw that comparison. Like, can we stop with these ridiculous Premface style comparisons? Like, just because he celebrates with his goal with his tongue out, it's absurd. Like, stop. Oh God, I'm not even a Juventino, and I just cringe. I just want to lie in the fetal position and take a hot shower when I hear this nonsense.
The two of them have a very much a bromance going on.
Yeah, well, that's great, but he's not the new Alessandro Del Piero. Can we stop that, please?
Turkish Del Piero.
Oh my God, I hate it when they called Osman the Iranian Messi. There's nothing but just I want to. Oh, stop this.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about it. Position. What position does he play in? So he's an attacking midfielder, winger, or attacker. He has played as an attacker in a two-man attack for Allegri, but he is very versatile and flexible. He can play in different systems, and he also has the attributes, I think, certainly to play these different roles. And he joined Juventus as a 16-year-old in the summer of 2022. His contract at Bayern Munich run out, and Juventus were fighting it out with Barcelona to get him on a free transfer, and Juventus managed to sign him at the time when Bayern Munich was signing De Ligt from Juventus. At the time, this was considered a massive coup for Juventus, because he was considered one of the best in the world for his age, and he's worked his way up through the under-19s of Juve and then the next gen team. And but he was, it's been clear that for those that watched him in those teams, that he was too good for that level. And there was some frustration early this season, actually, that he wanted to play in the first team. He wasn't getting his chance. And there was even questions that he could leave in January in order to get those opportunities. He actually made his debut for Turkey, his full debut for Turkey, before he made his full debut for Juventus. He did play some sub appearances earlier in the season for Juve. But it's only really in the last month that he's absolutely exploded. He scored a brilliant goal against Frosinone just before Christmas. He cut in from the left-hand side in between two players, and he smashed it in past the goalkeeper. And that made him the youngest foreigner to score for Juventus ever. And since then, he's scored two more goals, both of them fantastic goals. One in the Coppa Italia, again, cutting from the left, like Del Piero used to do, and lashing it in. And also, he volleyed in a really good volley. This was a very underrated volley that he scored against Frosinone again in the Coppa Italia last week. It was God, I'm going to die inside saying this, but it was like a Platini pass from Weston McKennie.
Stop. This needs to stop. This needs to stop.
It was a Platini pass. It kills me to say it.
Yes, it was a fantastic pass.
It was an amazing pass
as well
from McKennie. And the volley, he kind of scissor kicked it in midair, facing forward.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
It was brilliant.
No, it was
brilliant technique.
It was a beautiful pass.
Yeah. And he has fantastic qualities. The control he has, his technique. He can beat a man. He can go right and left. He can shoot. And like I said before, very flexible tactically. He seems to have a good attitude and temperament. Allegri famously told him he had to cut his hair because it was too long, and he got it cut straight away the next game.
I love Allegri going around telling people to cut their hair. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
But he actually has a point though, because he said that Allegri says, I was standing there counting him how many times, and he touched it 10 times in the space of a few minutes.
Oh, you mean like the
concentration and just even be fully concentrated on the game. Don't be touching your hair. So I kind of going to get where Allegri's coming from. But anyway, I think if there is a criticism that maybe he wants it too fast, he needs to have a bit of patience sometimes. But I do. You can see that there's so much quality there. So much quality. Allegri said that he's going to become a great player. Montella says he's going to be world class. And there's a lot of quotes. Some of them sensational. Some of them comparing him to Ronaldo. Some of them comparing him to Del Piero. But he's a huge talent. He's 18 years old.
Yeah, it's that's what I find so interesting. Again, is this next part of this Juventus next gen thing that they've got going, with lots of interesting, talented players who are just now starting to show who they are, and he's one of them. I think he's a really exciting player. I really enjoy watching him play. He's not he seems like we were just talking about how the new modern footballer is not so much skill but is more power and physique and less technique, but he's quite the opposite, isn't he?
He does have the skill, but that can happen at teenage level, and then sometimes it does get coached and drilled out of you.
Yeah.
They tell you, don't do this, don't do that, don't shoot from long range, like I said before, don't try and do back heels, play the high percentage, don't play the low percentage, So we'll see. That can happen. That can happen with players, but yeah, he's a big talent. You can tell some players. You can just tell straight away with him.
Yeah.
But
no, there's an interesting player there. We'll see how he develops, but I quite enjoy watching him play, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he's already in the Turkey team. He's going to go to Euro 2024. There's been a lot of questions about the interest in him from Arsenal and Liverpool. Liverpool and Arsenal are interested in him. There's no chance. First of all, there's zero chance of them signing this month, obviously. But I think looking ahead, summer and beyond, this is a player that Juventus, are looking to build their future around players like this, like Yildiz. It's their new policy of the club, and he's I think more interested in is who's going to be sacrificed for him in the summer. I said earlier in the show that Moise Kean could be more likely to be a loan, but be offloaded this month because of Yildiz's emergence. Well, who is going to be? Somebody is going to be offloaded. At least one of Juventus's players. Unless they go to, let's say, Allegri leaves and they go to a 3-man strike force, then it's possible all 5 could stay, maybe in a different attack. There's more space for them, but it's likely that one of the 5 will leave in the summer. And there's also questions about Chiesa because his contract runs out in 2025 next year, and they still haven't signed a new contract. And if they don't sign a new contract by, let's say, by the Euros or by the, let's say July, then there's a possibility that they could look to cash in on him because they're not going to risk losing him on a free. So yeah, this Yildiz development has a lot of knock-on effects for sure for others in the Juventus team. Before we do Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week, let's just a word for Sven-Göran Eriksson, who announced in the last few days that he is suffering from terminal cancer, and it was in some ways a very, very tough interview to watch, but also kind of in a strange way. It was such a beautiful interview in that just showing what a beautiful person he is and what an amazing person he is. And he was very open and honest and said, look, best case, I probably have a year or so to live, maybe months. But he also was very philosophical in that, it kind of shows you life, and that, a good day for me is just waking up, and it's good for me if I wake up and I feel good and I can enjoy every day. And it just shows you that, he's just such an amazing guy, and it was just so sad.
I love what the La Iene did, that 13-minute video. They traveled to his home in Värmland, in Sweden, where they, the journalist had brought with him food from Italy, and they cooked a carbonara because that's what he loves, and they just had a chat over food, and then of course after they ate, they played messages from his former players, and many of whom have become managers. And and the journalist said to that, look, you've got Conceição, you've got Simone Inzaghi, you've got Stankovic, you had Mihailovic, you've got Lombardo and Mancini, you've got Diego Simeone, you have Alessandro Nesta. So many of your former players are now successful coaches, and very successful coaches. And, what did you teach them? What do you hope that, what did you teach them? And he said, and his response is just so quintessential who Sven-Göran is. He said, I hope I taught them how to be a good human being and to treat others with respect and build a strong group that way. And that is so him. That's just how he's been. He's never once been the guy who humiliates players and yells at them and kicks stuff around and stuff like that. Of course, he got angry, but it was always about, leadership by consent. This very typical old school Swedish kind of, speak to someone's minds and hearts, win their minds and hearts over, and they will, and build a group that way. And you could tell that, Stankovic and Vieri were crying, they had tears in their eyes.
I love the format of that video as well. The way that they went to kind of like the Panini book from the Scudetto winning season. And then they had it kind of went into into their photo, and then they appeared out of the photo on video to say ciao, ciao mister, and then it was beautiful. You could see the tears in his eyes, like he was in tears, after it. I mean,
it was again another demonstration of how there truly is no one who more sincerely and more heartfeltly and more beautifully and honestly pay tribute to their heroes as Italian football does. Yeah, it's unique, and no one else does it, and it's so beautiful. And to see, and everyone, he won everything with that there was to win with Lazio. It was the most successful stint as a club ever. And to see Vieri that emotional, and Stankovic that emotional, and Conceição.
But you only have that when the person is a great person as well. Yeah. You can be a fantastic manager, but at the end of the day, when your health isn't good, and you don't get. I mean, it was so sincere, like you said. And
no, it was. It was beautiful, and it was moving. It was incredibly beautiful. It's
a very,
it's
very,
sad.
very, very kind person, and we obviously hope that he can live for much, much longer. He's come onto our podcast twice, and he was very, very generous and with his time, and he's always been like that. Always been very generous to people. I had a lot of time for people, and he's just a great person.
Yes, a lovely man who. One of the good people in football who's always been treats everyone the same, and views everyone doesn't do has a view on life and outtake on life which is very healthy and very traditional to the Sweden that I grew up in, which unfortunately no longer exists.
Yeah, well said. Right, let's finish off with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Okay, so 2 Baggios. The first we've already said, and that was the tribute to Sven, and I mean just how beautiful it was. But the second Baggio that I have was a great moment of sportsmanship from Lorenzo Dickman, the Brescia player, who basically had a run in on goal, and he stopped play when the Modena, his opponent from Modena, Shady Ukada, pulled up with an injury, and instead of continuing to attack at goal and trying to score, he stopped and he knocked the ball out of play, and that was a great moment of sportsmanship from Dickman. Brilliant.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, he wasn't a dick about it.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. That reminded me of Di Canio. Do you remember when Di Canio did that in a West Ham game where he had a chance to score and somebody was injured on the floor and he just picked up the ball? And that was like a year after he'd pushed the referee over. So like he went from like the worst sportsman to the best sportsman in like the space of a year.
No in between with that guy.
No.
There's never anything in between with him, for sure.
Okay, Premface of the week.
Oh, right, I've got 2. The first one is our dear good friend Max Rushton and his podcast, where they compared Cole Palmer to Kaká, which is just chef's kiss. Yes, they did.
No.
Thank you to Mike Lazar for sending that.
What's the comparison?
He sent it in. He DM'd it to us on their podcast, and Mike Lazar sent it to us, and I died a little inside just quickly listening to it before we started recording today.
Cold Palmer, they call him.
Cold.
They call him Cold.
Yeah.
They call him Cold Palmer because he's like cold from penalty. All he does is score penalties. Cold Palmer. He doesn't do anything else. Penalty.
Yeah, but it's in our DMs.
He's a penalty merchant.
It's 32 minutes in to he sent it to us on a link, Michael Lazar. So thank you for sending that in. So it's in our DMs. You can check that, and then we have Sky Sports, which we alluded to in the beginning, and I think it's one of the funniest things. I just couldn't stop laughing when they referred to Daniele De Rossi as Daniel De Rossi.
Daniel Rossi.
Daniel Rossi, yeah, I think it was Daniel Rossi or Daniel De Rossi, but they called him Daniel, and I couldn't stop laughing.
If they didn't have the De in it, and that's all-time top 3 Hall of Fame.
Daniel.
If they called him Daniel Rossi, like without the dare, I mean, it's bad enough, Daniel De Rossi, but if they call him Daniel Rossi, then that is...
I think it's hilarious. I absolutely
Who read it
love
out? Was it one of the presenters?
Yeah, it's one of the presenters. It just made me laugh so much. I could not stop laughing, and it was hilarious.
I've got two. This one, I think you sent this one to me. This was brilliant. So This is the TNT graphic promoting the Africa Cup of Nations. TNT are basically the replacement of BT Sport in England, and they put up a graphic to promote the Africa Cup of Nations, which started I think a weekend, and they were trying to show all the African players that play in the Premier League that are at the tournament, which they did, only that they also included an Iran player.
Salman Ghoddos, who plays for. I mean, he plays in the Premier League. He plays for Iran, but he's a Premier League player, and it's like, plays for Brentford, doesn't he? Yeah.
Oh man, brilliant! And the second one was our good friend Jamie Carragher, who was having a debate with Gary Neville on who should be in the team of the year, like the world team of the year, I think this was.
Yeah.
And Carragher went for Messi, and then Gary Neville said that he wanted Vinicius Jr. in, and he explained how he's had 35 goal contributions this year. And then Jamie Carragher responded, "It's a joke league, a joke league. What? I don't know what my accent is. What did Real Madrid win?" That's what. He said. So he called La Liga a joke league, basically. So Vinicius Junior cannot be in the team of the year because Vinicius Junior plays in a joke league. The funny thing is like literally a couple of hours after he said that, Vinicius Junior scored a 38-minute hat trick in the Clásico against Barcelona. He spat in the face of Jamie Carragher, let's say, with that hat trick.
Oh dear.
Serie A Ass of the Week to finish off. Right. I've got two, both from the Serie A Twitter account. Do you have anything?
No, go for it.
So the first one is an image of Domenico Berardi with his hands in the air. I don't know when... This wasn't the Juventus game, it was the game before. And then it had the caption, "After further review, touchdown," with an American football emoji.
Yeah, that was so cringy as well.
Like, I don't understand what that's referring to at all. No idea. And anyway, another Serie A Twitter account post with an image of Selena Gomez speaking to Taylor Swift in a kind of a gossipy kind of way, a kind of, kind of Chinese whispers. Oh, you know what he said, she said, like one of those kind of images. And they put a picture caption in quotes. "So Wes left Juve on loan, but then came back refreshed and bagged 2 assists yesterday. And Pulisic just won Player of the Month. The US MNT boys are on fire."
I don't know what that is either. It was very cringy, but apparently it's a meme that's going around because, I don't know. They are very cringy, aren't they? I mean, it's just... Ugh.
This is the Serie A official Twitter account. This isn't like the Serie A America. They have the Serie A, they have a North America Twitter account.
On Instagram.
Case, like,
no, on Instagram they've got a separate account.
Yeah. But don't they have that on Twitter as well?
No.
Oh, right. No. So it might be the Americans that are running that. Maybe they are. Like, I have no problem, like, for the American audience doing that, but I mean, just this Americanization again, like what we've said.
No, but they've done the right thing there on Instagram. They've created a North American account to pander to the North American audience.
That's fine.
That's perfectly fine. Do what you need to do. But when you do it on, like, when you say it's a Serie A English account, it's to all English speakers, and half of them are wondering what the actual F.
It's not just for English speakers either, Nim. It's for the whole world. English is the language. English is the language of the world. Is the world's language. Yeah, it's the language, most spoken language. I think it's the most spoken language.
No, after Chinese or Spanish.
Chinese, but most countries anyway speak it. And so it's you've got to cater for everyone, not just an American audience. And I don't know how many times I have to say it, but yeah, there we go. And if you are going to do American stuff, which you can do from time to time, of course, that's fine. I mean, yeah.
It is what it is. It is what it is, but it's very, very cringy, and it just makes no sense. And it's like, for me, that Selena Gomez, Taylor Swift video or image of them gossiping was just, it literally felt like, don't leave your phone unattended near your teenager kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like memeing like a teenager is just, yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Okay, right. Let's leave it at that. Another long episode today. We will
be back next week. We can't promise another episode this week. We're trying to set up something to do a Mercato deep dive this week, but it depends, obviously, if the person we want to talk to has time. So, just bear with us. But next week we're doing one on Monday. A review show of the weekend. We will be doing a Q&A show for the Tuesday, and then we'll also be doing a very exclusive interview, somewhat related to the Serie Ass content that we always produce week in, week out. It's an exclusive interview. Watch out for that. And then, of course, on Thursday next week, we'll be doing a midweek review as well. So, we'll definitely we're doing quite a bit of content to make up for the last weeks, which have been a bit of a mess due to illnesses and stuff like that, and schedule clashes. So, yeah, bear with us.
Yeah, we will. We will be doing more. We'll definitely be doing more. And we'll certainly make it up to you guys. Don't worry about that. Okay, right. Let's leave it at that. Enjoy the rest of the week. We'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.